Welcome to the Craig and Greg Show, presented by Maximize Leadership. Now, here are Craig Owens and Greg Harris.
Hey, welcome back to another episode of the Craig and Greg Show. I'm Craig. This is Greg, my covenant brother and dear friend that I share some things with you that I don't share with other people, so I have to make a confession.
And you keep spending $20 on me a month, I'll keep my mouth cut.
All right. Well, so my confession is I wrote a book. That a new book,
a new one
that I
number 2.
I wish I didn't have to write this book.
Yeah,
but
it's a heavy book. I
do have a copy here for you. That it's an autographed first edition you can put on your shelf there. So this book, When Sheep Bite, really, in some ways, I'm thinking of this as a prequel to my first book, Shepherd Leadership, because where this really came from was after writing Shepherd Leadership, I'd go and talk to different people about the principles in there, and some of them would go, "Yeah, those sound good," and there's almost like yes, but. Well, I guess if everything was great in the church, if everybody was getting along, if I didn't have people, kind of fighting against me, okay, well, let's talk about that. And so in some ways, this is kind of helping people to heal so that they can get to a spot where they're not in crisis management, but they're in a healthier spot where they can begin to then grow in their leadership.
Both book projects, you've allowed me to kind of read the chapters as you broke free of another one. And here, try this one. This particular book, as juxtaposed to the Shepherd Leadership, that one is a positive. It's servant. It's plunger man. It's it's helping people, serving people, and just being free about it. When sheep bite, it also is a business subject, not just a church.
Sure.
Where you can have infighting or toxic people in the church or in a business, and neither one are very fun places to have that.
Well, and that's why I said I wish I didn't have to write this book. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of embarrassing, as a Christian, as a pastor, to say people inside the church are misbehaving is an embarrassing admission. It's the same thing with, if you ask a business owner, how are things going in your company? None of them want to say, sales are up and man, our team really is fighting each other and fighting me. Nobody wants to admit that.
No.
But that is the reality in a lot of organizations. Sometimes it's widespread. Sometimes it's just that one person over there. Mm-hmm. But it is, whether it's in a church or in a business or nonprofit, whatever, it is a topic that has to be addressed.
I think when you were writing the second book one about when sheep bite, there is a couple reactions to us as leaders, whether it's church or business. There's that flight part where I just want to give up. I mean, they're being mean.
Yes.
I'm going to take my ball and go home.
Right.
The fight part is, okay, we'll resolve it, but one of us won't be standing.
Yeah.
That's pretty conclusive. I think the part that your book really got me going on was feelings. How you feel, how you react, how you punish, how you communicate, how you exclude, how you protect your boundaries. I mean, all the things that a good leader, pastor or business owner, and sometimes business owners are pastors.
Yes.
Your grandpa comes to mind in Ohio. Mm-hmm. That's how he looked at his business.
Yes.
I'm responsible for all these families.
Yes.
I think the feelings part is what got me. There's a myriad of things when either they slander you or they backbite or they try to break up the koinonia you got in your church or your business. It's like, are you just that evil-minded? And it does affect how you see things, which is a lot of the chapters.
Sure. Well, and you mentioned fight or flight. That's a natural thing. Mm-hmm. Psychologists, doctors have noticed this for years. When you walk around the corner and the boogeyman's there, you either run away or you're like, I'm going to fight this thing. And so it's the same thing when somebody hurts you,
right,
especially when you weren't expecting it. Mm-hmm. You're like, wait a minute. Like in the context of a shepherd, I'm feeding you.
I'm protecting you too.
Why are you, or an employer, I'm giving you a good job with a good salary. and it's a pretty good work environment. How are you treating me like this? Why are you biting me like this? Yeah. We do want to either run away from it, or we want to, pop them right on their little fuzzy nose.
Yeah, the whack-a-mole. I like to do that in the church.
Right? The shepherd staff that I have. I want to just reach out.
Yeah. I think the part that it validates a lot of pieces, but one is acknowledging that it hurts.
Yes.
Is very healthy for a leader,
right,
pastor or business owner. You had some situations, you saw other situations, not being in the middle of it. And there is a element of, okay, that's just part of being, no, it doesn't have to be. I love that it dealt with it. Let's recognize that it is traumatic. It is hurtful. It is injurious.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Well, let me, this will,
the book back
for some of the people, this will date me in this. I tell a funny story in there from, you might remember from Saturday Night Live. I know it was Billy Crystal. I can't remember who the other one was, that they would try to one up each other on their pain. So, I stubbed my toe and it slit it open and it was blood everywhere. And the other guy would always say, I hate it when that happens, and then they would want to tell you a story of their greater pain. So I do in this book, I do tell when sheep attacked me and bit me, but I never want that to come across as like my pain is worse than your pain. Pain is pain. Mm-hmm. And like you said, you have to just acknowledge it. What I like in my book here, the reason why I tell this, I love this quote from C.S. Lewis. He said, don't think of me as an expert. Just think of me as a fellow patient in the same hospital. But since I've been here maybe a little bit longer than you, I can give you a little better sense of how things work. And that's really what the tone I've tried to strike in that book. And that's why I appreciate it. I said in the acknowledgments, without your help and others that were reading this and offering me suggestions, I think the book would have come across much more harsh. You guys helped me soften that tone a little bit, because when you get bit, your first reaction is usually to, I'm just going to go right back at, okay, how do you like it?
Game on.
Yeah. And I have to go, wait a minute. Okay, yes, that hurt. And this is what the whole first section of my book is, but why? Why did you bite me? Did I do something?
For understanding.
Right. Maybe I stepped on your hoof and I wasn't even aware of it. Maybe I ignored you at a time where you were trying to get my attention and I was, busy with I got my agenda right here and don't bother me. I'm trying to work right here. Mm-hmm. Was there something I did? Or maybe you came to the organization with wounds already that hadn't been addressed and I never took the time to address it. Yeah. And then there's one time just passing by that I went like this and you lash out because I didn't know there was a bruise right here. And I just bumped it.
Right.
And so that's why I need to pause for a second. Why did you bite me? Okay, let me look in the mirror first. Did I do something? Did I overlook something? Have I not gotten to know you well enough to be able to address your hurt? There was a reason why you did that. And I need to figure out what that is. That's my first responsibility as a leader, is to say, what did I do that might have contributed to you wanting to bite me?
I think acknowledging that it hurts allows the pastor or leader to live as a human, versus, I can handle it. I got thick skin.
Right.
It's going to get you. The other part, I think, you talked about pain and the one-upper, not very fun to be around. I think excusing behavior.
Oh, yeah.
We do that. And that's when I kind of read that couple chapters that you sent us. So we're going to have to acknowledge this. So not excuse it away. Well, he's had a tough life. Behave better.
Yes.
You're not in that anymore. You grew up with a blah, 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 or whatever. I think the excusing it away, or maybe one of our tendencies is to a little bit be the martyr. Mm-hmm. And that's not leading.
No.
And then later in the book, you really give the tools on how to get your arms around it. Maybe explain a couple of them that worked for you or that you saw work.
Sure. So I start off at the beginning, and you might be tempted, and I say this in the introduction to section 1 of the book, that you might be tempted to jump past the section and go right to section 2, where I do talk about the actual bites. But section 1 is really, this is the primary leadership section. This is where I'm asking people to say, look in the mirror. did God allow this bite to get my attention? Maybe there was a blind spot, something I didn't see. Okay, I need to address this. The last chapter in that section then is entitled "Cry Before You Confront."
I saw that. Yeah.
So before I go to this person, I need to kind of, wow, how hurting do they have to be that they would lash out this way? And then we start talking about this. So the section 2 of the book is these different bites. And I start off with one that I call the sneaky bite, which is flattery.
I love that.
Because, flattery.
That's in business too, isn't it?
Yes.
Oh, boss, you're amazing. You've never made a bad choice.
I know.
Oh,
This
yes,
is
man.
the
Yes, man.
best company I've ever worked for in my whole life. When they come in like that, when it's over the top praise, that's where you have to go, okay, hold on a second here. And that a lot of times that is a cry for help or for attention. I haven't been recognized before. So maybe if I just layer it on real thick here, then you'll pay more attention to me.
That's good.
And so you do have to balance it. And then I kind of move through the things like gossip and slander, questioning our authority, abandoning, saying, well, I'm out of here. And they just, they kind of slip away and leave us in the lurch. So we do talk about all of those and some strategies.
I think for leaders, church or business, could be others too, could be church, school, hospital, whatever the setting, we can harbor. And I think your book does a very good job of needing to let that go. Cry before you confront is a great sentence or a great chapter title, but we can harbor, excusing it away. And so it's like, well, it happens a few times to me, but, I still love my flock. But confronting, that's another piece that,
yes,
we can get through with this bite. So if you're going to bite me more, I'm probably not going to be near you. And I'm not going to plug you in to church or plug you into our business if you're going to be that kind of a person. So confronting, have you had it where someone actually was surprised maybe that, is that how it comes off?
Yeah.
So sometimes pointing it out well,
yes,
not pointing it out to win,
right,
really does help that person like, oh, I'm sorry, I have to apologize to you. I did not know that was aggressive behavior or negative behavior, because some don't know. Some have it at home. They bring it to church.
Yes.
What'd you find?
Well, so I think it has to start off up front, the goal of confrontation. So in my mind, I have to have fixed that the goal of confrontation is restoration. I'm only confronting this person not to make myself feel better about it, but I really want to restore you. And so again, it goes back to what we've said before of people need to know that you really care about them. Yeah. So this can't be, you probably can't do this with a brand new parishioner or a brand new employee that really hasn't gotten to know you yet. That confrontation will come across very it'll sound harsh to their ears regardless of how you deliver it, because they don't have that relationship yet. But I remember one time where when I was just on the verge of a really large group coming in at our retreat center, our conference center, and I had to talk to one of my employees, and I brought him in and I just said, I realize things are tense now because we're under the gun. This huge group is coming in. But what I see from you right now is an attitude issue. Your attitude is, and I kind of outlined it, and I said, and this is how it's coming across to people. And he sat there looking at me with his eyes were wide open. And I said, so listen, this is how I've seen it. Would you take a little time to reflect on this? And I'd like to get together again. Could we, it was pretty early in the morning. I said, do you think that I'm just going to let your manager know you can be off the rest of the morning, but do you think after lunch we could reconvene? And he came back in and he said, you're right. As I kind of, I didn't believe you at first, and I was mad, and I stomped around a little bit. But then once I finally sat down and thought about it, you're right. That is how it was coming across, and we were able to work through some great things. But I wanted him to excel and to soar in his leadership. Right. That was my whole goal of the confrontation. Yeah.
Something comes to mind on who might read the book. Could be a CEO, could be top pastor of a big church, could be a small church, could be a small business, whatever size. boundaries. Maybe when sheep bite, part of it is they have to be close enough to bite.
Yes.
To lead, though, you have to be with them, right?
Yep.
And that's that quandary. Want to wrestle with boundaries with me a minute?
Yeah. So sometimes the boundaries have to be where you have to say, I can't talk to you right now because you are just wanting to be combative. You're just wanting to fight me right now. So we're not in a good place to have this conversation.
Yeah.
So that might need to be the boundary. The boundary might also be you just burst into my office demanding attention from me, and I've got a deadline. There's something else I'm working on, so I need to get back to you in a little bit.
Right.
That might be one of the boundaries that I have to do. So they're going to be individualized based on the person and the setting. But I think what ends up happening, what I see a lot of people doing is just saying, "Oh, you've just burst into my office. I'll set aside everything that I'm doing and I'll talk to you." Well, that's not a win-win there. Because they're ready to unload, but you're not ready to receive at the time. Or you're ready to talk to them, but clearly they're not on receive at this time.
They've still got steam to blow off.
So we need to get to a better spot here for this. But one of the boundaries that I would listen, if you're a leader of an organization, here's a boundary you need to have: don't take this home with you. Get rid of it before you get home.
How'd you do that?
Well, for me, I had some train tracks that I had to slow down to go across, probably about maybe 4 or 5 blocks from my house. When by the time that I hit that on those train tracks, that was my reminder. I need to be done with this. I can't be thinking about this anymore.
Mulling it over.
And there were some times there was a little kind of pull off there. There were some times that I pulled off there. I had to spend another 5 minutes. Okay, listen, my kids, my wife, they don't need this. I've got to get this out of my system.
Right.
I can't think about this anymore. I'm not going to rob my family of my best efforts because I've totally expended myself,
right.
And then I've brought this problem home with me as well. So that's an important boundary.
I like
too.
that.
In fact, I've got a chapter in the book that's called Shepherd Your Family.
Yep.
Make sure that you're loving them and protecting them.
Yeah. Versus trying to save the one only.
Right.
Yeah. I think for many of us, being bit has to be deciphered before you can really come up with a plan, right?
Yes. Yep.
But I had a urban pastor, great guy, Bishop Abney, and one of the comments he made is, Greg, we may disagree, but we can't disrespect. And I think if that rule is put in place with someone, a sheep who did bite,
yes,
like let's respect each other. We can disagree right this minute, but if the end goal is still to respect each other, we can probably work through it.
Yes.
Have you had a person who didn't want to do that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And I think, unfortunately, whether it's
You're supposed to not say it that fast.
Well, it's true. In a church, in a nonprofit, in a for-profit, there might be a spot where you say, we're just going to have to separate. I mean, for the good of you and me and this whole organization, we're just going to have to, we can't work together. I think about, in the Bible, 2 premier leaders, the Apostle Paul and Barnabas, they had, as Luke writes it, they had such a sharp disagreement that they had to decide to separate, and they went their separate ways. Now, I think that you can read between the lines and you can pick up some clues that there was some reconciliation that eventually took place.
Right.
But I think that is a healthy, again, Stephen Covey says, the goal is win-win, but if you can't have that, the next option that's best is no deal. So
I like that.
It's not healthy to go to lose-win or to win-lose.
Right,
Those are not healthy. So, but what is better option, if we can't win-win, if we can't agree, if we can't move forward on this, we're just going to have to separate. And that is the reality, because not all of our personalities are going to mesh, are going to connect.
We've talked about boundaries, the biting, the different types. Any cautions on becoming bitter as a leader? I mean, you talk about it at times in different chapters,
Yeah.
just like guard your heart, but like the bitterness,
Oh.
that's pretty easy.
Well, I remember there was a dear, sweet lady who had a lot of years of experience going through this. And when we were, my wife and I were going through a really rough pasture with a lot of biting sheep. And I had a chance to, both of us, to spend some time with her. And I remember her leaning across to Betsy and putting her finger right on her chest like this. And she says, "Don't let it get in there. Don't let it get in there because it's too hard to get out and it's not worth it." And that's, I think, when you start internalizing it. And so I do talk about some ways to I have one chapter that's called your emergency release valve,
Get rid of steam.
how do you pop that, but, and how it has its an appropriate place. That's why I originally I just called the title your release valve. And then I said, no, it needs to be the emergency. This can't be an ongoing thing because then that's telling me that it's getting to that win-lose thing.
Yeah.
I need to, I release the steam so that I can come back in a better place. And that's keeping the bitterness out of my heart too.
Yeah.
But the hardest thing to do, but the most effective thing is forgiveness.
Yeah. Boy, it's so hard. But at the same time, if we do understand, the first section is understanding what's going on, why, whether it's you caused it or you contributed to it or you had a little bit to do with it.
Right.
It's good to know that ahead of time before you come up with an action plan.
Yes.
Like I wonder what they're going through too. We can call that empathy. We can call whatever you want. Just a good understanding.
Yes.
Otherwise, how you're leading like this. You don't know, like this person, I don't know what she's going through.
Right.
I think the bitterness is so easy, particularly in a business, you're doing things for the employee in exchange for their doing something for the business.
Sure.
But the backbiting, the backstabbing, the toxic behaviors, the, trying to be divisive, the end result isn't what the person was hoping for.
Right.
It never happens.
Right.
They still continue to be sour.
Yes.
I mean, that's what almost want to shake them like it's not going to finish.
Right. Don't you get this? Right.
Yeah. And that's the hard part is where you don't want to lose faith in humanity.
Yes.
So close up on the exciting project. It's coming out when?
It's out.
It's pre-ordered?
The book is out now. Yeah.
Okay.
So, you talked about fight or flight. Those are natural responses. Yeah. So the first section of the book is, take a look at your heart, make sure you're not fighting or flighting. The second part is the actual bites. But then the third section of the book is what I'm advocating, a third response. Instead of fight or flight, faithfulness.
Yeah.
Stay faithful to where God has placed you. Stay faithful to the commitments you've made. Stay faithful to the best possible outcome for yourself and for those biting sheep. And I think that history has shown that the faithfulness, the longevity of things is what has won people over.
Yeah.
I think that one of the guys who wrote an endorsement on the back of the book, he said that he sees far too many people that give up way too soon.
I know.
And so his hope was, and my hope as well, is that this book would help people stay in there. But listen, we'd love to help you. This is part of what we do in coaching is to be an outside source. Like as I mentioned earlier, getting Greg's input and a couple of other guys really helped me soften the tone of this book because I'm writing about some of my past hurts and I was re-feeling the pain again.
Right.
But getting an outsider, that's what coaches do, is we're not in the emotion of the moment. We can step back and have a more impartial, more dispassionate view and be able to speak into your life. So if you go to Maximize Leadership, we have a whole page there about our coaching services. You'll see some of the coaches, but down at the bottom is a form. You can just fill that out and say, this is the situation that I'm going through, and I think I need a coach's help there. And then we'll get back to you, maybe match you up with one of our coaches or make another suggestion, but we'd love to be able to help you there. Make sure that you check out our YouTube channel. Huge library of resources that are there. Some of them are full-length episodes like this. Some of are shorter clips. Greg has a great series called Max Minutes, just 1 minute bites. You can also on Maximize Leadership, you can find other resources like books and that sort of thing as well. So we just want to be here to be a resource for you because we really want to invest in your leadership, because when you get better as a leader, everything around you gets better. Your organization, your family, your own life, and that can really spread. That's what we want to be a part of. So stay tuned here because we got lots more content that's going to be coming your way real soon.
Get in touch with Craig and Greg through Twitter at Maximize Podcast or at MaximizeLeadership.com. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any episodes of The Craig and Greg Show.